June Park stood at the docking bay of Talon Prime, clutching his research tablet to his chest. The air on the alien world shimmered with particles that caught the light of the twin suns overhead. His heart raced with excitement and nervousness. After years of studying the Talons from afar, he would be the first human to live among them. "Remember your training," he whispered to himself. The Galactic Union had spent months preparing him for this cultural exchange. The Talons had joined the interstellar community only 3 years ago, and information about their daily lives remained scarce. A tall, slender figure approached. The Talon's skin had a translucent quality, with faint blue crystalline patterns visible beneath the surface. June recognized the formal greeting posture from his studies. "Welcome to our world, human June Park," the Talon said, voice melodic and clear. "I am Lono, your liaison. The Navi family awaits your arrival with great anticipation." Jun carefully formed his hands into the traditional greeting shape. "I am honored by your welcome and the generosity of the Navi family." Lono's eyes, faceted like gemstones, seemed to assess Jun's gesture. A slight nod indicated approval. "Your transport awaits. The journey to the Navi residence will take 1 revolution of our smaller sun." The vehicle hovered above the crystalline ground, making no sound as it accelerated. Through the transparent walls, Jun watched the landscape change from the geometric precision of the spaceport to wild formations of living crystal that reached toward the sky. "The crystals," Lono explained, noticing Jun's fascination, "are semi-sentient. Our ancestors learned to communicate with them thousands of years ago. Our homes grow rather than being built." Jun made notes on his tablet. This information wasn't in any of his briefings. "Fascinating. Are all Talon structures living?" "The most important ones. Others are shaped from inert crystal. They passed through valleys, where the crystal formations created natural arches and bridges. Talon settlements appeared occasionally, homes and buildings integrated perfectly with the natural structures. As they traveled, the crystals grew taller and more complex. The Navi family lives in the ancient crystal forest," Lono said. "They are one of our oldest bloodlines, with strong connections to the living crystal. This makes their invitation to you particularly significant." Jun swallowed nervously. "My research didn't indicate the Navi family was so prominent." Lono's expression shifted in a way Jun couldn't interpret. "There is much that is not in your research, human June Park." The transport slowed as they approached a massive formation of crystals that seemed to pulse with inner light. Unlike the other settlements they had passed, this one rose hundreds of meters into the air, with interconnected structures forming a complex network. "The Navi residence," Lono announced. The transport docked at a platform that extended from the main structure. As June stepped out, he felt a subtle vibration through his boots. The crystal was responding to his presence. 3 Talons waited at the entrance. The tallest stood slightly forward, his crystalline patterns deeper and more intricate than any June had seen so far. Beside him stood a female Talon, her patterns flowing in graceful curves. Slightly behind them was a younger female, her eyes wide with undisguised curiosity. "I present Dero Navi, head of the family," Lono announced formally. His mate, Ilara Navi, and their daughter, Kimi Navi. June bowed deeply. "I am honored beyond words by your hospitality." Dero stepped forward. His face remained impassive, but his voice carried authority. "Human June Park, you enter our home as the first of your kind. Your behavior will shape how we view your species for generations to come." "I understand the responsibility," Jun replied, feeling the weight of the moment. Ilara moved forward, her movements fluid. "You are welcome here, researcher. Our home is yours while you stay with us." Kimi, unable to contain herself, stepped around her parents. "Do you really come from a world without crystal? How do you hear the songs? How do you build?" Her questions tumbled out rapidly until her father placed a restraining hand on her shoulder. "Forgive my daughter's enthusiasm," Dero said. June smiled. "There's nothing to forgive." Curiosity drives understanding between our peoples. This seemed to please Ilara, who gestured toward the entrance. Come, we will show you your quarters. As they entered the structure, Jun gasped involuntarily. The interior was even more impressive than the outside. Light filtered through the crystal walls, creating rainbows that danced across the floor. The space opened into a vast chamber with multiple levels connected by spiraling ramps. Furniture seemed to grow naturally from the floor, formed from the same living crystal. Our home has been growing for 16 generations, Ilara explained. Each family member adds to its song. Jun noticed small objects placed in various locations around the main chamber. Some appeared ceremonial, delicate crystal formations arranged in specific patterns. Others were unfamiliar artifacts that emitted soft pulses of light. What are these preparations for? He asked, pointing to a particularly elaborate arrangement. The three Talons exchanged glances. You are observant, Darrow said finally. These are traditional elements for a family celebration. The timing of your arrival coincides with an important season for us. Kimmy stepped closer to Jun. Will you participate in our traditions? No human has ever joined our ceremonies. Before Jun could answer, Ilara guided them forward. Your quarters have been prepared in the eastern branch. The crystal there has been singing in anticipation of your arrival. As they led him deeper into the house, Jun noticed more ceremonial preparations. None of these matched his research materials on Talon cultural practices. He made mental notes to update his findings later. His room was a rounded chamber with a bed platform that seemed to float above the floor. The walls pulsed gently with blue light. Rest now, Ilara said. Tonight, we will have the welcoming meal. Tomorrow, your true introduction to our ways will begin. After they left, Jun sat on the edge of his bed, overwhelmed by the experience. He activated his communication device to send a brief message to his research team at the Galactic Union. I've arrived safely at the Navi residence. The family seems welcoming, especially the daughter, Kimmy. There are ceremonial preparations throughout the home that weren't covered in our briefings. Something significant is happening here, beyond just my visit. I'll learn more in the coming days. He looked around the room that would be his home for the next 3 months. The crystal walls pulsed in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Jun couldn't shake the feeling that the house was watching him, learning about him just as he was here to learn about the Talons. What have I gotten myself into? He whispered, but despite his apprehension, he felt a thrill of discovery. This was why he had become a xenoanthropologist, to experience the unknown. Jun woke to the gentle hum of crystal walls. It had been 2 weeks since his arrival at the Navi home, and he was slowly adjusting to the rhythm of Talon life. Each morning began with the greeting of light, a family ritual where the Navis gathered in the central chamber as the first sun rose. Today, like every day before, Jun joined them. He stood beside Kimmy, who subtly guided his movements. The family formed a circle, extending their arms as the light filtered through a crystal prism above, sending rainbow beams across their bodies. You're getting better, Kimmy whispered as they finished. Your movements are more fluid now. Thank you, Jun replied, though I still feel like I'm missing something deeper. Darrow, who overheard their exchange, approached. The deeper meaning comes with time, human. The light speaks to each of us differently. After breakfast, a meal of crystal-grown fruits that tasted like honey and mint, Jun followed Darrow to the contemplation garden. This had become their daily routine. Darrow would present Jun with a Talon social scenario, and Jun would have to navigate it correctly. Today, Darrow said, standing beside a pulsing blue crystal formation, you are visiting a sacred site with a family of higher status than ours. They offer you a gift of song crystal. What is your response? Jun thought carefully. The answer had to consider Talon hierarchy, gift customs, and sacred site protocols, all at once. I would accept with hands positioned below theirs, to acknowledge their status. Jun began, demonstrating the gesture. I would then offer to carry the song crystal to the central shrine as a service of honor. Darrow's expression revealed nothing, but the crystals around them brightened slightly. And if they insisted on carrying it themselves, I would walk 3 steps behind, humming the melody of respectful distance. Now Darrow's face showed a hint of surprise. You have been studying beyond our sessions. June nodded. Kimmy has been helping me understand your musical traditions. Has she? Darrow's crystalline patterns shifted with what June had learned to recognize as concern. Later that day, June sat with Kimmy in the eastern viewing chamber. The transparent walls offered a panoramic view of the crystal forest. This had become their special place, where Kimmy would ask endless questions about Earth. "Tell me about your oceans again," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Water that covers most of your world. I still can't imagine it." June showed her images on his tablet. The Pacific Ocean is so vast, you could fly for days and see nothing but water. Kimmy touched the screen with wonder. "And you can't hear it singing. Not even a little." "We don't hear songs from nature the way Talons do," June explained. "Though some humans say they feel a connection to the ocean. I think I would like to see it someday," Kimmy said, her voice wistful. "Do you think humans would welcome me as your people welcomed you here?" "Some would," June answered honestly. "Others might need time to understand your ways." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Ilara. "Kimmy, you have preparations to attend to. And June, would you join me in the ancestral chamber?" June had never been invited to this sacred family space before. He followed Ilara down spiraling pathways into the heart of the crystal structure. The walls here were ancient, with patterns so complex they seemed to tell stories. "What I am about to show you," Ilara said as they entered a small, intensely glowing room, "is normally seen only by family members." In the center of the room stood a crystal pillar pulsing with inner light. Surrounding it were smaller crystals arranged in a pattern June didn't recognize. "This is our family's heart song," Ilara explained. "Each crystal contains memories and songs from our ancestors. For generations, we have added to it." She guided June to a specific crystal. "Place your hand here." When June touched the crystal, a wave of emotion washed over him. Joy, sorrow, hope, all intertwined. For a moment, he felt connected to something ancient and powerful. "Why show me this?" he asked when he could speak again. Ilara's patterns shifted in what June had learned was a Talon smile. "Because understanding comes through feeling, not just observing." That evening, June's communication device chimed with a message from his research director, Dr. Han. "Your reports show concerning levels of cultural immersion. Remember protocol. Observe but maintain distance. Some team members worry you're going native. Respond immediately." June frowned at the message. His reports had been detailed and objective, hadn't they? He typed a quick response. "Concerns noted but unnecessary. Close observation requires participation. Will maintain scientific perspective." As he sent the message, he wondered if it was entirely true. The Talon ways were affecting him more deeply than he'd expected. The next morning, the house was bustling with activity. Other Talon families arrived, their crystalline patterns varying in color and complexity from the Navis. They all seemed interested in June, watching him with unblinking gem-like eyes. "They're from the 7 connected houses," Kimmy explained as she helped June prepare for the day. "They've come to see you. To see me. Why?" Kimmy's patterns rippled with amusement. "Because you're the first human to participate in Talon family life. Your actions reflect on all humans." Throughout the day, June was introduced to numerous Talons. Some were openly curious, asking direct questions about human biology and culture. Others were more reserved, observing from a distance. One elder Talon, whose patterns were so deep they seemed almost black, approached June during an afternoon gathering. "You move differently now," he noted. "Less like a human, more like one who hears the crystal song." June realized it was true. He had unconsciously adopted Talon movements. The fluid gestures, the rhythmic walking pattern, the still pauses to listen to the crystal vibrations. That evening, as visitors departed, Darrow called June to the central chamber. The entire Navi family was present, along with Lono, his original liaison. Human June Park, Darrow announced formally. We have observed your adaptation to our ways with great interest. You have shown unexpected aptitude for understanding our customs. Ilara stepped forward. In recognition of your efforts, we will hold a special celebration in your honor during the alignment of 3 moons, 7 days from now. June felt honored, but also slightly uneasy. May I ask what this celebration entails? The 3 Talons exchanged glances, their patterns shifting in silent communication. It is a recognition ceremony. Lono explained finally, a formal acknowledgement of your position among the Talon people. You will be the first human to receive such an honor, Kimmy added, her excitement evident in the rapid pulsing of her patterns. Later, alone in his room, Jun recorded notes for his research log. Day 15. The Navis have announced a special ceremony in my honor. While flattering, I'm concerned about its implications. The family is treating me less like a researcher and more like something else. Darrow's tests have grown more intimate, touching on family traditions rather than general social customs. Ilara showed me their ancestral records today, apparently a privilege reserved for family members. He paused, considering his next words carefully. Most concerning is my own response. I find myself drawn to their ways. The crystal songs that once seemed like background noise now have meaning. I catch myself thinking in Talon patterns rather than human logic. My research team's warnings about over-integration may have merit, but I can't help feeling there's something important happening here, something beyond the scope of my original research. June looked out his window at the 3 moons beginning their approach to alignment. Whatever this ceremony meant, it would mark a turning point, not just in his research, but in relations between humans and Talons. And perhaps, though he was reluctant to admit it even to himself, a turning point in his relationship with Kimmy, whose fascination with him seemed to grow more personal with each passing day. The day of the 3 moons alignment arrived. June dressed in the special garments the Navis had provided, a robe woven with crystalline threads that caught the light and reflected it in patterns that matched his movements. He studied himself in the mirror, barely recognizing the man who looked back at him. After just 3 weeks among the Talons, he had changed in subtle ways. His movements were more fluid now, his posture different. He even found himself tilting his head in the Talon manner when listening. A soft chime at his door announced Kimmy's arrival. She wore an elaborate outfit of shimmering blue, her crystalline patterns pulsing with excitement. "It is time," she said, her eyes brighter than usual. "Are you ready?" "I think so," Jun replied, "though I'm still not entirely sure what I'm ready for." Kimmy's patterns flickered in what June had learned was amusement. Just follow my lead. This night will be remembered for generations. She led him through the house to a chamber he had never entered before. The crystal walls here were ancient, their patterns so complex they seemed to shift and move as he watched. At the center stood a raised platform surrounded by the assembled members of the Navi family and their guests from the 7 connected houses. Darrow and Ilara waited on the platform. Between them floated a small crystal, suspended in a beam of light from the ceiling. It pulsed with a blue-white glow that seemed to reach out toward June as he approached. "Human June Park," Darrow announced in a formal tone. "You have lived among us, learned our ways, and shown respect for our traditions. Tonight, under the alignment of 3 moons, we offer you recognition." Ilara gestured for June to step onto the platform. "The ceremony requires 2 participants who move as one. Kimmy will guide you." Kimmy took her place beside June. The assembled Talons began a low, harmonious hum that vibrated through the crystal walls. June felt it in his bones. "The dance of joined paths," Kimmy whispered. "Follow my movements exactly." What followed was unlike any dance June had experienced. Each step, each gesture seemed to create patterns of light in the air around them. The humming of the Talons grew louder, more complex, as June and Kimmy moved in perfect synchrony. Their shadows merged on the floor, becoming a single shape that twisted and flowed with their movements. The floating crystal between Darrow and Ilara began to pulse in rhythm with their dance. June felt himself becoming lost in the movement, in the music that seemed to come from the walls themselves. For a moment, he thought he could hear what the Talons called the Crystal Song, a haunting melody that existed just beyond normal hearing. As the dance reached its climax, Darrow lifted the floating crystal and presented it to June. "This has been in our family for 12 generations," he said. "It contains the songs of our ancestors." June remembered his training. The proper response to receiving a significant gift was the gesture of honored acceptance. He formed his hands into the shape he had practiced so carefully. Right palm up, left palm down, fingers interlace at specific angles, and bowed his head as he accepted the crystal. The moment his fingers closed around it, the room erupted. The Talon's hum became a joyous chorus. Light exploded from the walls in brilliant patterns. Kimi's patterns flashed so brightly they almost blinded him. Darrow placed one hand on June's shoulder and the other on Kimi's. "It is done," he announced. "The bonds are formed." The celebration that followed was unlike anything in June's research notes. Talons approached him and Kimi in pairs, offering blessings in their musical language. Ilara embraced him in the formal Talon manner, pressing her forehead to his. "Welcome to our family, truly," she said. June smiled and nodded, accepting congratulations while trying to understand exactly what had happened. The crystal pendant hung from his neck, warm against his skin. Hours later, exhausted but exhilarated, June returned to his quarters. His communication device was flashing urgently. 3 missed calls from the research base. As he reached for it, it chimed again. Dr. Han's face appeared on the screen, her expression frantic. "June, thank goodness. Do you realize what you've done?" she demanded without preamble. "I participated in a recognition ceremony," June replied. "The Navis honored me with." "It wasn't a recognition ceremony," Dr. Han interrupted. "Our cultural specialists just translated the ritual descriptions you sent last week. The dance of joined paths, the ancestral crystal, the gesture of honored acceptance. June, you participated in a betrothal ceremony." June felt the blood drain from his face. "A what?" "A betrothal. An engagement. You're now formally promised to marry Kimi Navi according to Talon law and custom." June's mind raced back through the evening. The dance that merged their shadows into one, the blessings offered in pairs, Darrow's declaration about bonds being formed. "There must be some mistake," he said weakly. "They wouldn't. Not without telling me. Cultural Supervisor Lono just contacted us formally to begin the interspecies marriage documentation process," Dr. Han said. "This is a diplomatic crisis, June. The Union has no protocols for this situation." June sat heavily on his bed, the crystal pendant suddenly feeling like a weight around his neck. "I need to speak with the Navis. Explain the misunderstanding." "Be careful," Dr. Han warned. "Breaking a Talon betrothal is considered deeply dishonorable. It could damage the entire alliance between humans and Talons." After ending the call, June sat in stunned silence. How could he have missed this? He reviewed his research notes frantically, finding only brief mentions of Talon bonding practices, nothing about the specific rituals he had participated in. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Kimi, her patterns still glowing with happiness. "I couldn't sleep," she said, entering his room. Tonight was too special. June took a deep breath. "Kimi, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding about the ceremony." Her patterns dimmed slightly. "Misunderstanding? I didn't know it was a betrothal ceremony," June explained gently. "In human culture, we have very different rituals for engagement. I would never have participated without understanding." Kimi's patterns faded further, pulsing now with what June recognized as distress. "You did not intend to bond with me." "I didn't know that's what we were doing," June said. "I thought it was a friendship ritual, a recognition. But you performed the gesture of honored acceptance perfectly, Kimmy said, her voice small. That gesture is only used for betrothal. Everyone knows this. I didn't know, Jun said softly. It wasn't in my research materials. Kimmy's distress patterns intensified. Did you not wonder why we danced the joining? Why the elders blessed us in pairs? Why my father spoke of bonds being formed? The door slid open again, and Darrow entered, his patterns dark with concern. Kimmy's distress vibrations reached throughout the house, he explained. What has happened? June stood, facing the Talon patriarch. There has been a serious misunderstanding. I did not know the ceremony was a betrothal. Humans have different customs for such commitments. Darrow's patterns shifted to a configuration Jun had never seen before. This is not possible. Lono explained our bonding customs to your research team months ago. What? Jun felt a chill run through him. It was part of the exchange agreement, Darrow continued. Your people were informed that accepting a homestay with a family that has an unbonded daughter could lead to a bonding proposal if compatibility was found. Kimmy looked between her father and Jun, her patterns now barely visible. You truly did not wish to bond with me. The hurt in her voice was unmistakable, transcending species differences. June realized with a shock that she had developed genuine feelings for him. Feelings he had been too caught up in his research to fully recognize. It's not about wishing or not wishing, June tried to explain. It's about informed consent, about understanding what we were agreeing to. But his words only seemed to deepen their confusion and pain. In Talon culture, it seemed, actions spoke louder than any explanation could. Mourning brought no relief to the crisis. June sat in his quarters, surrounded by Galactic Union officials on his communication screen. Their faces showed varying degrees of concern and frustration. This situation is unprecedented, said Director Wong, the highest-ranking human in the room. No human has ever been betrothed to a Talon. The Talon High Council has formally contacted us, added Ambassador Lee. They view this as a binding agreement between our species. Breaking it would be seen as a grave insult to not just the Navi family, but to all Talons. June rubbed his temples. There must be some way to explain this was a misunderstanding. We've tried, Director Wong said grimly. The Talons have a different concept of intent. To them, performing the ritual correctly is what matters, not whether you understood its meaning. A new face appeared on the screen. Dr. Minji from Cultural Affairs. June, I've reviewed all your research notes. There's something odd here. The betrothal customs should have been in your briefing materials. They're missing. Before June could respond, his door chimed. Ilara entered, her crystalline patterns subdued. The 7 connected houses have called a gathering, she announced. Your presence is required, as is your communication with your people. The officials on the screen exchanged glances. We'll join remotely, Director Wong decided. June followed Ilara to the central chamber, now filled with Talons. Their patterns pulsed with tension. Darrow stood at the center, his patterns dark and rigid. Kimmy was nowhere to be seen. A large communication screen showed the human officials. From another entrance, 3 Talons in formal attire entered, members of their ruling council. This gathering will address the bonding dispute between human Jun Park and Kimmy of House Navy, announced the eldest council member. Darrow stepped forward. My house has been dishonored. The human performed the sacred rituals correctly, accepted our crystal, and now claims ignorance of their meaning. We do not question that this was a misunderstanding, the Galactic Union ambassador responded. Human cultural practices differ significantly from Talon customs. Ignorance does not undo a bond, said another council member. The ancestors witnessed their joining. June listened as the discussion grew more heated, with both sides becoming increasingly frustrated. The diplomatic implications were expanding beyond just his situation. Trade agreements, scientific exchanges, and the newly formed alliance itself seemed at risk. Finally, he raised his hand. May I speak? All eyes turned to him. I meant no disrespect to House Navi or to Kimmy, he said carefully. In human culture, betrothal requires explicit verbal consent and understanding. I performed your rituals out of respect for your customs, not realizing their specific meaning. The room fell silent. Then, from a side entrance, Kimmy appeared. Her patterns were dim but steady. I knew, she said simply. All attention shifted to her. Kimmy, Darrow warned, but she continued. I knew Jun didn't understand the ritual's full meaning, she admitted. I wanted the bonding to happen. Murmurs rippled through the assembled Talons. I study human customs, Kimmy continued. I knew humans require explicit discussion before bonding. But I felt a connection to Jun that I've never felt before. I thought if we completed the ritual, he would accept our ways. Jun stared at her in shock. You deliberately led me into a betrothal ceremony without explaining it. Kimmy's patterns flickered with shame. Yes, Darrow's patterns flared with anger. You have brought double dishonor upon our house. No. Ilara moved to stand beside her daughter. Kimmy acted from her heart song. There is no dishonor in seeking connection. The council members conferred among themselves. The eldest turned to address the room. This situation has no precedent. A ritual properly performed, yet without understanding by one participant. A deliberate concealment of purpose by the other. Both human and Talon customs have been violated. Director Wong spoke from the screen. We propose annulling the betrothal with no fault assigned to either party. A cultural misunderstanding. Impossible, interrupted a council member. A betrothal cannot simply be erased. The crystal has accepted the bond. As if in response, the pendant around Jun's neck warmed against his skin. He looked down to see it glowing faintly. The eldest council member tilted his head, studying Jun. There is one possibility. Ancient law provides a path when bonding is contested. Ilara's patterns shifted with recognition. The 5 trials of worthiness. The council member nodded. If human Jun Park completes the 5 trials, he earns the right to choose his path forward, to confirm the bond, or to dissolve it honorably. What are these trials? Jun asked. Tests of body, mind, spirit, heart, and truth, the council member explained. They are challenging and not without danger. No outsider has attempted them in living memory. The human officials looked alarmed. We cannot agree to put our researcher in danger. Director Wong protested. It is the only way to resolve this without lasting damage to our alliance, the council member replied. If he refuses the trials, the betrothal stands as valid under Talon law. A tense silence filled the room. Jun looked at Kimmy, whose patterns now showed a complex mixture of shame and hope. I'll do it, Jun said finally. I'll undertake the trials. The declaration caused another stir among both humans and Talons. Jun, this is not advisable, Dr. Han warned from the screen. We don't know what these trials entail. It's my decision, Jun replied firmly. This situation is my responsibility to resolve. The council members nodded in approval. The trials will begin at next dawn, the eldest announced. As the gathering dispersed, Darrow approached Jun. His patterns were still dark with anger, but controlled. You have chosen a difficult path, he said. Few Talons attempt the trials voluntarily. I had no choice, Jun replied. There is always choice, Darrow stated. That is what the trials will reveal. Later, alone in a garden alcove, Jun found himself joined by Ilara. She sat beside him in silence for several minutes before speaking. My daughter acted wrongly, she said finally, but her feelings for you are genuine. Jun nodded. I care for Kimmy too. But not like this, not through deception. The crystal pendant you wear, Ilara said, it would not glow if there were no resonance between you. Jun touched the pendant thoughtfully. In human relationships, trust is as important as connection. As it is for Talons, Ilara agreed. Perhaps that is why the ancients created the trials, to find truth when words fail. "What should I expect from these trials?" June asked. Ilara's patterns shifted subtly. Each is different for each person. They reveal what is already within you. She rose to leave but paused. "Whatever you decide after the trials, know that I do not hold anger toward you." After she left, June contacted Dr. Han privately. "I need everything you can find on these 5 trials," he said. "We're already searching," she replied. "But June, you should know. We've discovered why the betrothal information was missing from your briefings." "Why?" "Kimmy accessed our database 3 months ago. She had permission as part of the cultural exchange, but she specifically altered your materials." June felt a fresh wave of betrayal. She planned this from the beginning. "It seems so, but—" Dr. Han hesitated. "The Talon mind works differently from ours. Their concept of deception has nuances we're still trying to understand." June looked out at the crystal formations glowing in the fading light. Tomorrow he would face the first of the 5 trials, with no idea what to expect. The pendant against his chest continued its faint pulsing, like a second heartbeat alongside his own. Whatever came next would determine not just his future, but potentially the relationship between humans and Talons for generations to come. Dawn broke over the crystal forests of Talon Prime as June prepared for the first trial. He stood at the edge of a vast crystal canyon, wearing only simple clothing. The pendant still hung around his neck, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. "The trial of body," announced the eldest council member. "You must cross the crystal void without assistance." June looked at the canyon stretching before him. No bridge spanned its width. No visible path led across. "How am I supposed to?" he began, but the Talons had already stepped back, forming a circle around the canyon's edge. The crystal surfaces below began to shift and move, forming temporary platforms that appeared and disappeared in rhythmic patterns. June studied the movements, trying to detect a pattern. "Trust the crystal song," a soft voice said behind him. Kimmy stood at a distance, her pattern subdued. "Feel it rather than see it." Despite his anger at her deception, June closed his eyes and focused. The pendant warmed against his skin, and he felt a subtle vibration, a rhythm that matched the platform's movements. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward. The first platform held. Then he jumped to the next as it formed, and the next. Each leap required perfect timing with the crystal song. One misstep would mean falling into the void below. When he reached the other side, sweating and breathing hard, the Talons hummed in approval. "The body acknowledges truth," the council member declared. "The first trial is complete." The next 4 days brought challenges unlike any June had faced. The trial of mind forced him to navigate a crystal labyrinth that changed based on his thoughts. The trial of spirit sent him deep into the living crystal where he faced visions of his deepest fears and doubts. Each night, exhausted and often injured, he returned to the Navi home to recover. And each night, Kimmy would silently tend to his wounds with crystal healing techniques. On the 4th night, after the trial of heart, where he had been forced to relive every meaningful connection in his life, June finally spoke to her. "Why did you do it?" he asked as she applied a healing crystal to a burn on his arm. "Why the deception?" Kimmy's patterns dimmed. "When you first arrived, I felt something I had never experienced with any Talon. A resonance. You could have told me. Would you have considered bonding with me if I had?" she asked. "Or would your researcher's objectivity have prevented it?" June had no immediate answer. "I know what I did was wrong by both our standards," Kimmy continued. "But the crystal doesn't lie. It recognized our potential harmony before either of us did." She touched the pendant at his neck. "It wouldn't respond to you otherwise." The 5th day brought the final challenge, the trial of truth. June stood before a massive crystal formation in the sacred grove, surrounded by Talons and human officials who had arrived to witness the conclusion. "Here, all deception falls away," said the council elder. "Place your hands on the truth crystal and speak your heart's true purpose." June approached the crystal, which towered above him like a living pillar of light. As his hands touched its surface, his mind cleared of all confusion. The crystal seemed to peel away layers of thought until only his core remained. "I came to Talon Prime seeking knowledge," he said, his voice echoing strangely through the crystal. "I found connection instead. I was deceived, yes, but in that deception, I discovered something genuine." The crystal pulsed brightly with each word. "I resented being pushed into a bond I didn't choose. But these trials have shown me that choice isn't always what we think it is. Sometimes it's recognizing what already exists." When he finished, the crystal released him. He staggered back, feeling lighter somehow. "All 5 trials are complete," announced the council elder. "Human Jun Park has earned the right to choose his path. The ceremonial dissolution will take place at sunset." As the sun began to set, Jum stood in the ceremonial chamber. Representatives from both species filled the room. The Navi family waited on the platform. Duro stern and formal, Ilara serene, and Kimmy with her patterns so dim they were barely visible. Director Wong approached Jun before he ascended the platform. "Whatever you decide, the Union will support you. The betrothal can be dissolved with no diplomatic consequences now." Jun nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. The pendant at his neck pulsed warmly against his skin. He climbed the steps to the platform and stood before the assembled witnesses. The dissolution crystal waited on a pedestal. All he needed to do was place the pendant into it, and the bond would be broken. "Human Jun Park," intoned the council elder, "you have completed the 5 trials and earned the right to dissolve the improperly formed bond with Kimmy of House Navi. Present the crystal pendant." Jun removed the pendant from around his neck. He held it in his palm, feeling its warmth and the subtle pulse that had become so familiar. He looked at Kimmy, whose eyes met his with resignation and sorrow. In that moment, all his research training, all his human perspectives on relationships and proper procedures seemed strangely distant. What remained was the truth he had discovered in the final trial, that sometimes connections form beyond our understanding or intention. "I choose not to dissolve the bond," he said clearly. A murmur ran through the crowd. Kimmy's patterns suddenly brightened with surprise. "Instead," Jun continued, "I wish to formalize it properly, with full understanding and consent from both parties." Darrow's patterns shifted with shock. Ilara's brightened with joy. The human officials exchanged confused glances. "Jun, are you certain?" Director Wong called from below. "I am," Jun replied. He turned to Kimmy. "The deception was wrong, but what grew from it is real. I felt it in the crystal song, in the trials, and in my own heart. If you still want this bond, I choose it freely now." Kimmy's patterns blazed with a brightness that illuminated the entire chamber. "I do," she said simply. The council elder, recovering from his surprise, raised his hands. "Then let it be recorded in the crystal memories. The bond between human Jun Park and Kimmy of House Navi is confirmed, freely chosen by both." The celebration that followed merged human and Talon traditions. The Union officials, after their initial shock, recognized the diplomatic opportunity this union presented. What had begun as a crisis had transformed into a powerful symbol of interspecies connection. 6 months later, Jun sat in his new study in the Navi House, finalizing his research publication. Crystal Bonds, a human among Talons, contained insights no outside researcher had ever documented. His unique position as both observer and participant had revealed aspects of Talon culture previously hidden from human understanding. Kimmy entered the room, her patterns glowing with the special brightness that Jun now recognized as love. "Have you finished your work?" "Just about," he said, smiling. "But I've been thinking about sharing our story more widely." "How so?" "There's this platform called Galactic Reddit," Jun explained. "Beings from all across the Union share their experiences there. Our story might help others understand cross-species relationships better." Later that night, Jun posted their journey with a simple title. He visited an alien family. In the end, he had to marry their daughter. He included everything: the misunderstanding, the crisis, the trials, and his eventual choice. Within hours, responses flooded in from humans, Talons, and dozens of other species. This is now the most upvoted cross-species story in galactic Reddit history, Kimmy said with amusement as they read the comments together. June laughed. Not exactly the academic recognition I came here seeking. Life rarely gives us what we seek, Kimmy replied, her patterns dancing with joy. Sometimes it gives us what we need instead. As the twin suns set over the crystal forests outside their window, Jun reflected on how a simple research assignment had changed everything. The pendant at his neck, now permanently bonded to his biology according to Talon tradition, pulsed in harmony with both his heartbeat and the crystal song of his new home. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.